Ethan, I'm taking Mia on a cruise.
Of course, Sophia. Take her, just take care of Mia, okay? You both are my entire world.
Thank you, Ethan. That means everything to me.
Sometimes life surprises us in ways we can't imagine. Sophia, a strong and loving mother, was taking her little girl Mia on a cruise. The cruise deck was buzzing with life. Families hugging, waving, saying goodbye. As the cruise sailed into the vast ocean, Sophia and Mia stood by the railing, and the endless sea stretching out in front of them.
Mama, look, isn't this beautiful?
Yes, my dear.
Later that evening, they sat together for dinner. Mia was glowing with happiness, laughing, swaying in her seat. After finishing her food, she leaned over the railing again. She saw the fish swimming in the crystal clear water below. Mia was so overjoyed she couldn't even speak. Her joy was simply too much for her little heart. But you know happiness doesn't always last forever. That night, as Sophia and Mia slept, the weather changed. Suddenly, the sky turned dark, the winds howled, and the ocean's waves grew wild. The calm of the evening was replaced by chaos. People began screaming. Fear spread like wildfire. Amidst the chaos, Sophia held Mia close and whispered. In the face of the storm, Sophia didn't give up. She held Mia close to her chest and jumped into a lifeboat. The ocean roared around them as they drifted further into the darkness. The night was endless. The water, the wind, the black sky. It all seemed to scream that hope was lost. Finally, the lifeboat drifted to the edge of a snow-covered island. Cold, empty, silent. It was like time had stopped. As they stepped onto the icy shore, one thing was clear. They had escaped the storm, but their troubles were far from over. Sophia knew they couldn't survive out there for long. She looked at Mia, shivering, and decided it was time to act. With trembling hands and a heart full of courage, she began gathering sticks and branches to build a shelter. And little Mia? She followed her mother's lead, her small hands carrying tiny twigs. Finally, after much effort, they had a hut, not a home, but a tiny refuge against the biting wind. And so the days began to pass. They survived on whatever little food they had left. Sophia would light a fire every night, and the two of them would huddle together inside their hut, waiting, hoping, praying for help. But one night, something unexpected happened. A loud roar shook the silence. A huge polar bear, Coco, appeared outside their hut. She needed help. His little cub, Hugo, had fallen into an icy water hole. Sophia took a deep breath and gathered her courage. She approached the water where Hugo was trapped. Despite the freezing cold, she reached in and pulled the little cub to safety. Coco watched her closely, her eyes filled with gratitude. Sophia smiled and said,
Helping friends is important.
From that day on, everything began to change. Coco, the huge polar bear who once seemed so terrifying, had become their friend. She brought fish for them every day, fresh from the icy waters. Sophia would roast it over the fire, and together they would eat as if they were a small family. They played in the snow, shared their meals, and, for a while, forgot about the harshness of their reality. Out in the middle of nowhere on a snow-covered island, icy wilderness that once felt cruel had now become home. But life, it has a way of testing them again and again. One night, when everything seemed peaceful, a strong wind blew through the island. It whistled and roared, and before they knew it, the fire inside the hut spread. Sophia grabbed Mia and rushed outside. They stood there, shivering in the cold, watching helplessly as their only shelter burned to ashes before their eyes. But the night wasn't done testing them. As they stood there in the freezing cold, the silence was broken by the sound of growling. A pack of wolves had appeared out of the shadows. Sophia held Mia close, bracing herself for the worst. But then a roar, loud, powerful, and full of fury. It was Coco. Coco charged toward the wolves, her massive form crashing through the snow. The wolves fought back, snapping and clawing, but Coco, their friend, their protector, drove them away. By the time the fight was over, the wolves had fled, but Sophia had been hurt. Her leg was bleeding. From that night on, Coco made a promise in his own way. He would never leave them alone again. He carried Sophia and Mia on his back and took them to his den, a place warm and safe. In that snow-covered wilderness, 4 hearts beat as one: a mother, a child, a bear, and his cub. They were no longer strangers. They were family. But far away, watching them silently, was a snow tiger, hungry and dangerous. Coco knew this. He sensed the danger long before anyone else. And so, he came up with a plan. One day, Coco found an old shipwreck buried in the snow. He searched the ruins and brought tools back to Sophia. Together, they fixed her lifeboat, their only chance of escape. By the time the boat was ready, the sun had set. Sophia decided they would leave at dawn. That night, as they sat together near the fire, there was a quiet understanding. This was their last night together. While Sophia was taking one final look at the jungle, the snow tiger attacked. It leaped toward her, its claws outstretched. But Coco was ready. Coco fought the tiger with everything she had. The battle was brutal. Snow flew into the air, growls echoed through the trees, and then silence. As always, tragedy struck Sophia and Mia. Coco sacrificed his life, but she wounded the tiger so badly that it could no longer attack. Hugo cried loudly, unable to understand what had happened. Mia didn't know how to comfort him. Sophia, with tears streaming down, said her last words to Coco.
Coco, you will always be with us. Always.
With Coco gone, Sophia knew they couldn't stay. She carried Hugo and Mia to the lifeboat and set out across the vast ocean once again. The waves were calmer this time, and for the first time in days, the journey felt peaceful. That night, as the sky turned dark, a distant light appeared. It was a police boat. Sophia waved toward it, and soon they were rescued. As Hugo looked around in wonder, the boat carried them toward the safety of the shore. But for Hugo, it was strange, and he watched everything in wonder. When they finally returned home, Mia's father had already heard the news about the lost cruise passengers being found. He was waiting at the port to welcome them. At home, Sophia dressed Hugo in Mia's clothes and put him to sleep. But at that moment, Sophia couldn't stop thinking about Coco. She missed her deeply. That journey, that struggle, it was more than survival. It was a story of love, sacrifice, and friendship.